Vampires are said to be undead creatures who exist on the blood of the living. There were reports of them preying on victims across Europe for centuries, and they were made famous by authors like Bram Stoker, and more recently in comic books and films. But is there any truth to the stories? In Bulgaria, they have discovered what are claimed to be a number of vampire burials. Skeletons that were either impaled with wooden stakes through their chests or decapitated because they were feared to be undead. So far, literally hundreds of these bodies have been discovered all over the country. Unusually, rather than the traditional wooden stakes through their hearts, the corpses here were buried with plows, sickles, and farming tools embedded in their torsos. In 2009, museum director Bahidar Dimitrova revealed one of the suspected vampire corpses to the world.
Archaeologists dug up these moneyed bloodsuckers whilst excavating a monastery near the Black Sea.
As in Sozopol, we unearthed 700 Christian graves and found only 2 traces of anti-vampire manipulation.
The alleged vampire skeleton is on display on the first floor of the museum, and Dimitrova agreed to explain all about the discovery.
Why do you believe this to be a vampire?
I am scientist. I am rational, so I don't believe. But your Bulgarians believe that people were either good or bad. These Bulgarians believe that if you're good, you go up to heaven. And if you're not good, you remain here on earth. Some people believe that the bad people at midnight rise from their graves and go to certain places to drink blood from people and animals. The only way to stop this was for the young people to go to the graves on the 3rd or the 4th day after the death, then stab the body with an iron piece of an agricultural tool.
So this looks like a kind of iron axe head. Was this what was used to stab him through the heart?
Yes, this is the iron part, which they stabbed into the dead body, as this tool was very sharp and would pin the body down.
So this part of the plough would have been driven through this man's torso.
Exactly, not only in the body but in the heart.
So they believe that this man was a vampire.
The people believe that this person can become a vampire. That's why they do this. Or some people, or some people around put some rumors that they have seen him around the streets after midnight.
Right.
In fact, there have been hundreds of so-called vampire corpses dug up across Hungary, Romania, and neighboring countries, all with similar metal farm machinery embedded in their skeletons.
Do people believe that the vampires exist today?
Yes, to my surprise, people do believe that vampires exist today. Just recently, I watched a documentary from Bulgarian and Romanian border where they discovered the same practice in Romania. And very recently, forensic scientists found that this practice is still continuing in northwest Bulgaria.
So what, they're doing it today? They're driving stakes through people's heart today?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Wow, that's extraordinary.
The best is, of course, finding burials where the skeleton has a stake through its chest. And they actually call these vampire burials. So it's testament to the fact that this wasn't just some light-hearted belief. It was a really important part of their belief system. And they took it quite seriously indeed.
To complete this remarkable story, Jamie was then taken down to the ruins of the old castle in Sozopol, overlooking the ocean, to see the actual grave of the alleged vampire in the museum.
In the grave here, this is where the vampire burial was found. The building was quite grand. The skeleton was in this grave.
Okay, and the skeleton was here with the iron through the torso.
Yes, the skeleton was here with the iron tool through a vital organ, the heart, as was the Christian practice.
And how many vampire graves did they find on this site?
Out of a total of 700 graves, only 2 burials were found from several periods. One of a man and one of a woman, built according to Christian practices. And these 2 were buried in a very different fashion to the others.
It's worth saying that the museum doesn't really believe that this was a burial of a real live vampire. Rather, that it was thought of as such many centuries ago by a people who lived in fear, ignorance, and extreme superstition.
People were terrified of suicides rising from the grave. And this is really where it came from. Basically, a wooden stake was driven through the heart and a stone placed on the face to stop them rising, because they knew that the suicide wouldn't be at rest, because they knew that the suicide wouldn't get into heaven and didn't want to go to hell and would rise.
There have been hundreds of vampire burials being discovered in Eastern Europe. I mean, it's obviously the tip of the iceberg. Certainly, a few centuries ago, there was what was known as an epidemic of vampires.